So, yeah, I'm not feeling particularly spiritual feelings this morning, but then again, I don't. And that's not what I'm saying. It's been very interesting, the kind of feedback that I'm getting. Uh, one, people assuming what spirituality has to mean, but I mean, I think that's on you guys, because another way of putting what I'm saying is, okay, people say, hey, I had this experience, it was a spiritual experience, right? And you can look at what those experiences are like and find out something about the psychology that's going on at the moment. Now, maybe there isn't a particular feeling, and it's a recipe of feelings. Okay, let's decompose. What are the component ingredients that go into a spiritual feeling? Now, I think it is actually its own feeling. I think there's a certain essence to it where things seem to fit together, and not always in a positive way, right? But like a lot of emotions, it has not even an ironic, but there's a surreal characteristic to it. So like if you see things going together in a negative way, and you have a spiritual experience about that, there is something about it. It seems like that's the way it's got to be, and that you have to accept it in some sense, and some people would say even glorify. Now, I am a lifelong non-theistical thinker. I do not believe in metaphysics. Now, when I was younger, I've entertained these kind of spiritual ideas of, maybe we're in a dream world, and, that maybe you can manipulate, like I have told. What, Lily? You're rolling around in the leaves. I don't think I had the camera pointed at you until right when you finished. Don't like being on camera when she's in joy in herself. So, it's not like, I don't think people should try to max out this feeling and try to feel it all the time. I don't think people should do that with any feeling. I think becoming a junkie of any kind of feeling is just like being addicted to any other addictive substance like coffee. And, if you're going to give yourself a heart attack or ulcers, then you're going to have a problem. Now, Nick, bless his heart, had brought up the issue of drinking, which to me, I was wondering if I should talk about that. Everybody's always so interested in other people's habits. It's like, it's like Roy Zimmerman says about, it's nobody else's business who you have sex with, what kind of toys you use. It's interesting, but it's nobody else's business. Except for the toys, they are somebody's business. But it's kind of like that with I think, if people drink or whatever. But I haven't been drinking much, by which I mean I go days and days without drinking, as opposed to after my daughter passed away, I drank every day. There was maybe a couple days where I wasn't drinking because I was trying very hard not to, would be the only reason. More days like that where I did go and end up drinking, go get alcohol and drink. And now prior to that, I never drank much until I was around 38. I started drinking more. After my divorce, going out, being social. I joined a pool league that was, where the pool tables were at the pubs, and so you have a couple drinks a week then. But even then, I did not drink every day. I mean, a lot of people acted and thought that I did, because I like to make videos. If I've had a few drinks, I tend to, I should make a video. So, back then, if I went out to a party and came back, intoxicated, very, very 100% chance that I'm going to make a video. And I probably got to a point where it was the other way around too. Like if I'm thinking, I'm working along on something, and then I'll get to the point where I'm going to make a video, I'll probably have a drink or two first. So it came to be a trigger kind of thing. But still, was not drinking every day, and I didn't feel like I had any problem where I had an urge to want to have to drink just to drink, and waiting to drink, or making sure there's alcohol in the house until my daughter died, and then I definitely descended into alcoholism. And but it hasn't been going on for a couple months before I left Hawaii. I think not probably more than that, but a couple months more, just through force of will. Even though I wanted to drink, I started to realize, okay, I'm going to have to do something about this. And if I'm going to commit suicide, it's not going to be just on a downward spiral of alcoholism. It'll be something more active. And so where am I going with this? So, okay, now I'm having a much better relationship, And my idea is to be able to time the alcohol and not just drink because it's there. Because, the problem that I still have is that, if I won't just drink one beer, if I drink one beer, then I want two, and basically I'll keep drinking beers until I go to sleep. Now, I still in that state will be like, well, I don't want to drink anymore, I guess I'll go to sleep. So, but that's not quite where I'd like to be. I'd like to be, I'm going to have a couple beers and then read and fall asleep. But right now, I would still be at the point where I'd have a couple beers, and then I'd have a beer while I read. Actually, one thing that made me realize, back when I was in Hawaii, this would be like 6 months ago or something, that I really, really wanted to control this is, God, it's so beautiful. There's just so many things to look at. It's hard. I want to pause and look at something for longer because my ideas are just darting around like the cat. Bug. Squirrel. Looking at the camera, sometimes I remember, you look at the camera, it's the most boring thing to look at in the world. So you get eye contact. It's not really eye contact, people. But anyway, was that I go to bed and want to read, and my vision was too blurry. Like my head still felt clear enough to want to read something. I didn't realize, okay, that's bullshit. So anyway, but here, it's there's still something I think it's good for me to watch. But and not drinking for a few days, I notice that there's a hum of this quality of a spiritual feeling. It's just much closer. It's easier. And then after Andy DeFranco, well, before at 6:30, we had a glass of wine at the what do they call it? Not the music center, performing arts center or cultural center on the campus. Maybe Center for the Performing Arts or something like this. And we had a glass of wine, a little cup of wine there. And then we watched the show. We came home, and I had 3 beers. Okay, which, is a very modest amount. But significant. And then last night, I had a beer and 2 glasses of wine. And it's definitely, and that's not enough for me to have any sort of noticeable trouble waking up or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I had a really good night's rest. I think I finally got my desk chair's settings right, because I was having back problems, and what happens is you don't notice till you go to sleep, and then you wake up and during the night you have it. So I slept really well, but there's just sort of a sense of life and connection and living that's broken off. Now, is it just a coincidence? Um, uh, I don't think so. I think it's related, and I don't think that means it would be that way for everybody. Like, I don't think that having a drink or two, having 3 beers in the evening, or 1 beer and a couple glasses of wine, I don't think that would separate everybody from their spiritual path. I don't think it separated me from my spiritual path. That's probably a term that bugs people. I don't think it has separated me from my spiritual path in the past. I just think that, like, when I talk about paying attention to this feeling, it's like, right now, I think, my spiritual path, definitely needed less drinking. And I've been thinking it needs me to be in control and have timing of it, and to have a drink of the right amount at the right time, when it really is a nice little relaxant. And, but I've got to be open that maybe it's more like, yeah, well, that right time isn't once a week, or once every couple weeks, or even once a month. Maybe it's not for a couple years, kind of thing. I'm not big on giving myself taboos and prohibitions, you see. But I can say, don't do that for another couple years. I've had things in my life where I did that, and I've never done them again. And I'm still open to doing it, but, it just hasn't come up, not that interested or whatever. And I realize it might never happen. Some indulgence or activity that I thought I needed to move on from. So now, what do I mean a spiritual path? Because I guess this is where you get into metaphysics for most people. It's like, if you have this spiritual path that you're feeling out, isn't that just an intuition? And it's like, well, I mean, yeah, we're talking about feelings, right? But I don't think this spiritual feeling is some antenna telling you where to go in life. I mean, I think that we have open will. I think there's willpower, and there's many things we could do, and we're supposed to exercise that. And I don't think it's an antenna telling us, in that sense, what we should do. I think it's more a sense of our own frame of mind, right? Like, the spiritual feeling is a high-level abstraction where there's a feeling, a sense, perception. It's plugged into looking at how the mind's going. And it feels good when it thinks the mind's, humming a little more connected. With its environment. Like, if accepting the environment the way it is healthy and not a pessimistic, it seems to, that's what it's going for. One of the things it seems to be going for. And if I struggle looking for this, it's because I don't think we know a lot about this. I really feel that one of the funny things about the reactions is I think I've been pretty explicit about how much of a starting point I think this is. And I've been using the starting point my whole life, and I don't really plan to get past it. It seems pretty complicated. But it seems good at getting rid of all this baggage of what spirituality is supposed to be, just to say, well, that, yeah, I've had experiences, where I feel this deep connection and these kinds of things that you describe as spiritual, that other people describe as spiritual. And I'm trying to make sense of what those experiences are, and I'm trying to integrate that feeling into my life so that I have a positive experience in feeling space here. And all the space of all the feelings that I have, I'd like that to be positive if possible. And I think the spiritual feeling is some sort of a collating, meta feeling that is important. You know, some people are like, oh, you're trying to be a guru because you want to get popular and you could sell the spirituality. And it's like, well, no, because if I wanted to do that, I would tell people I'm a big system maker. I would sell people some system of like, well, you plug your third chakra into your fourth chakra, and then you fart your chakra gas and you fly to space. I mean, that seems to me what the spirituality industry, which I mean to denigrate a little bit. I think that's what it's into. People want magic powers, and they also want, it's very Western. It drives me nuts the way a lot of Westerners use Hinduism and Buddhism, because it's like they want a little sheet they can unfold that's like, number 1, do this, and then make this frequency, and then 3, question mark, question mark, question mark, 4, spiritual enlightenment, And I like to bring that stuff down to earth, and I know that's not going to sell among the market of people that, pay thousands of dollars for spiritual retreats. So that's not, this is just like everything else I've done on YouTube. It's like, this is what I'm thinking about, and you're getting more of what I'm thinking about on the next stage. I feel like I have done exposition on relativistic skepticism, and that's my foundation. And then a way through life is material spirituality. I could also go into my philosophy of art, which is a life philosophy about how to interpret what's going on. And they're all really above the relativistic skepticism, which is the epistemological basis. They're all basically absurdist positions, like, yeah, there's no fundamental meaning, but it's about how you make meaning. And that's why the philosophy of art, to me, is a fundamental way of living, because it's a way of answering what do we do about the fact that the universe doesn't have meaning built in, and we need meaning for life to be worthwhile, for it to be meaningful. So I think in material spirituality is one of these methods by which we're imbuing the universe with meaning. I think the artistic impulse is a way we imbue the world with meaning and interpret what we see. I think there's other systems that can do that, and basically philosophies of life have to do that. And then when they pretend to just explain the meaning that is allegedly already there, those are actually creative as well. So dogmatic systems at some point were creative, right? Somebody created it, a work of art, and then they said, that's the way it really is, and it never shall it be any other way. That's it. That's the real thing. True, true, true. But you can interpret those as, well, why did you construct this meaning as the meaning for the universe? So, I think it's ironic, though, because the more I feel that this is a good message for me to take, and I'm getting good guidance for my own mental health from thinking about this stuff more and more. Like coming out here, I didn't really feel like, I go out there, just go up there and start working. But I knew that, well, if I go out here, I'll absorb this greenery and these fallen leaves, and I won't literally roll around in the leaves like some people I know, but metaphorically, and I did that because I thought it would. I did that out of respect of paying attention on a moment-to-moment basis. What is triggering more of a feeling of meaning in my life, right? And the idea, well, it's just an illusion. All feelings are just illusions, right? Because we're just this wet computer. But if you're trying to be happy or satisfied, and you're trying to find meaning, then really, since we're all just computers and all the meaning's going to be different, to do that, you have to follow those feelings. It's like, the feeling of sexual attraction, or that feeling of that delicate attraction to beauty, that's also, partnership love. That's just biochemistry as well. But you have to pay attention to it to find someone that suits you. Someone that triggers that feeling in you really is going to be someone that you can have that partnership with, more than someone that triggers feelings of disgust, right? So I think it's the same thing with this spiritual feeling. If you're following a breadcrumb trail of where there's significant meaning, then that's left by your own psychology, and that comes to the trick, which I'll finish with here. Then you're likely to get into a situation where your mind sees that meaning more easily. I think the thing is, people are such followers, and they can't really look into themselves. They have trouble discriminating one feeling from another, even if they're very different feelings. And you can even find psychology tests where, when events happen, people could confuse sight and vision, so different. But certainly when it's, the desires, the less concrete desires, people will confuse the feelings, and you add that to the fact that they like to go get somebody else's cargo, and people are looking for meaning in other people's cargo, and that could be really loud. That could be, here's the Bible, look at this church, and you go into church and it could be so beautiful. Some churches that it's like, it really could confuse you, and then you're following somebody else's breadcrumbs. And let me tell you, if you're following a trail that you sniff out, it's a very different thing than if you follow a trail of breadcrumbs somebody else left, a trail of candy somebody else left to their church. So again, I think it's important for people to be able to introspect, and I believe we are becoming individuals. And that I think we're at a stage where every spirituality and every spiritual path has to be individual, and that what that really means, in as concrete as possible language at the moment, is finding meaning in your life, and that we are also modern creatures, and while in the past we might be able to pretend that we're really just finding it and it's out there, we have to understand it's also a creative process, and so we're creating meaning. But you can do that. It's just like in activism, sometimes people, the world is all screwed up, they say to themselves, and what can I do? So they go down and they create a youth group for youth to go down to the beach and learn how to surf, right? And then sometimes you meet these people 20 years later, and there's this going concern, and they even have people helping them, and there's this whole project. And as a young activist, I'm like, how does this stuff get started? And it's usually somebody seeing the absurdity of the world and trying to create a subdomain, a little region of meaning, that when they look at it, it'll feel meaningful. And then that gets going, and sometimes decades later people acknowledge the meaning, because they're like, my son was becoming a thug, and then he came down there, and instead, now he's a world famous, surfer, or he stayed out of trouble and decided to go to school, or he's still down there surfing, but he's a lovely boy, man, or whatever. Meanwhile, I use that example because a lot of people say, well, there's no meaning to surfing. I know certain people that say that. And so it's a personal thing, though. If you don't think that surfing is a good worthwhile and that it's out in nature and it doesn't harm anybody. And I mean, if you don't think surfing's awesome, it's probably not the program you should start, right? So, yeah. I was looking up what birds are here because a bit of the universe was saying that the song that he heard here is a swallow. And the list doesn't say there's white-throated swallows, but I looked up swallows and on YouTube, I one of those, and yeah, a lot of the pretty songs we're hearing here, like that one I think, seem to be swallows. And I think it's time for me to start to learn this hobby of bird watching and listening. Because the tropical sounds are really cool, they're kind of surreal, but I just don't think they're as varied, and it's also sort of a hum, a constant sound. I really like it, mind you. It's one of the great things about Hawaii. But, you know, this is kind of where I'm from, these kind of forests. Not in Maine, but in California, and like I say, you can walk in this forest. As thick as it is, you can walk and make your way through it. And the jungle's kind of daunting. So the idea of coming out and bird watching here seems like a great thing to do. But it is ironic because one of the kinds of animals that Hawaii does have is a lot of different kinds of birds. And I have had a lot of fun in Hawaii watching the ospreys and things like this. So, but I never had the urge to go like bird watch, but I kind of do here because I was watching some birds, little teeny tiny birds, and I was watching them and I could see them singing, and it's just so amazing. A little tiny thing, doot 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 dee doot, and it goes for a mile or whatever, which is cool. And I wonder if the bird thinks there's meaning to its song. Okay, that's kind of a lie. I'm pretty sure the bird knows there's a meaning to its song. But I did have a poster with all the birds of Hawaii, most of which I would never see. That's the other thing. There's a lot of animals in Hawaii that you hear are there, but you never see. You know, they're in little pockets and microclimates that you don't necessarily run into. And the things that is, the types of plants that are everywhere, you know, it's just it seems like a handful. But some of those are cool. As a matter of fact, let me leave this on a positive note for Hawaii, which is the ohia tree. The ohia tree is a very interesting tree, and one thing I always thought was interesting about it is, depending where it grows totally different. If it had a lot of soil like this, it looks like a big giant oak tree. And yet it's one of the first things that comes back in the lava when there's only an inch or two of soil, and it just comes out differently, more of a skinny kind of a little tree, and then it grows on cliff sides. And recently, in the last I don't know, I guess 10 years, there's been some research showing that this animal, this tree, adapts so quickly and changes its genes to adapt so quickly that it makes new species. And it's actually breaking down the idea of species a little bit, because you'll find little tiny stands of 2 or 3 trees that have adjusted their genes, basically, so that this is a tree that seems to be able to morph its genes back and forth. Like, I don't know anything else that works that way, other than certain viruses and things that seem to, like, move their genes around like most creatures move their arms and legs. And ohia does that, something like that. So I always thought that was a really cool tree. And so there you have it. Stowed away home, Lily. Oh, these rechargeable batteries seem to last longer than the store batteries. Oh, that's interesting. Is that another dog, or is that going to be a coyote, I think, Lily? Coyote shit. Yeah, interesting. Much more interesting than the deer shit, isn't it? Holy shit, Lily, you actually know you're leading me home, huh? We're doing that. Like I said, I wanted you to learn when it was time to lead me home, and you're doing that. Yeah, what's that, Lily? Something shit there over and over and over again. Interesting. Definitely not a dog. Wonder what kind of cats. Wonder what kind of wild cats are around here, Lily. You should look that up. I know they're supposed to be coyotes. And I know there's deer, of course. There's got to be some kind of little bobcat. I'll bet you there's almost always some sort of little bobcat. Lily, you are awesome. When I got up after that long video, I was kind of like, wait, which direction was it? You took us straight home. You rock. Oh, you know, I'm just so proud of you. All right. Bye-bye.